So last year I had to cut these videos short, so I had a couple that were written out completely, but I didn't get a chance to film. So before we get started with any new stuff, I did want to go over the movies that I was going to cover last year. And it starts by me saying that despite what I may have said about stuff like the new Friday the 13th or the new Nightmare on Elm Street, not all horror remakes have to be bad. The Thing by John Carpenter is one of the best horror movies ever made. So is The Fly, taking a really simple sci-fi horror and making it into a grotesque spectacle. Other fun ones are The Blob, The Crazies, and although I didn't find it that scary, and I think the internet has ruined a lot of it, it was pretty good. But probably the most famous remake has been done over and over and over again. I can think of 3 or 4 different versions just off the top of my head right now, including one with Bugs Bunny that legitimately terrorized me as a kid.
What's up, Doc?
But my favorite was the version by Phillip Kaufman in 1978. So, to start us off this year, prepare yourself for the invasion of the Body Snatchers. A strange alien race lands on Earth and attaches itself to plants near the crash site in San Francisco. The film follows 2 members of the health department as they investigate strange occurrences in the town, including the appearance of strange pods randomly scattered throughout. The alien presence spreads throughout the town slowly, taking over the townspeople and replacing them with soulless, distant duplicates. And it's up to the 2 of them, along with some close friends, to stop the creature's influence from spreading, alert the townspeople to their activities, all while trying to avoid being spotted. This is one of, if not the most commercially successful and well-produced horror remakes of all time. It's got a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, as opposed to the original, which has 98? Are you kidding me? Way to go, Don Siegel. I mean, the 1956 film is an absolute classic, and if you haven't seen it, you really should. It's one of the best examples of 1950s horror that transcended B-movie schlock and struck a raw nerve with the mainstream audience. And I think its star, Kevin McCarthy, was fantastic.
Our wives, our children, everyone, they're here already! You're next!
He even makes an appearance in this one, playing...
Lock the door! They're coming! They're coming! Help! Help! They're coming!
The same character from the original. It's kind of a brilliant connection. In the original, the authorities finally believe him at the end, but they never really play it out like the situation was completely resolved. And this one kind of spreads the notion that it never did, and he's just been wandering around for 20 years trying to warn anybody who would listen to him, till the mob finally catches up with him.
Oh my God.
He'll be fine. He'll be on his feet running a TV station in a couple of years. That was a UHF joke. I recognize that guy from UHF. And just like in the 56 film, the 78 has a fantastic cast.
Wait right there, Mr. Bennell.
How do you know my name?
Hang up, Matthew.
I didn't tell you my name.
Hang up.
I didn't tell him my name.
Donald Sutherland is amazing as always. Sutherland always had this great look on his face in pretty much every one of his roles where he is suspicious of everyone around him. Also, I haven't done the math on this, but I'm pretty sure his mustache is so manly it can cut through an uncooked steak.
Matthew. Matthew.
And he works great opposite... Oh, God, where do I know her from?
I'm gonna marry you, you know?
You better.
You think I would have made that connection earlier. I just did the Dead Zone, but... No, that was total coincidence. But she's fantastic.
But what happens to us?
You'll be born again into an untroubled world.
Even the side characters are interesting enough, like pretty much every scene with Leonard Nimoy. I spent the entire movie hoping he'd use the word illogical, and it just didn't come out.
Belichick, I'm telling you for the last time, I want you to stop. I want you to stand still, be quiet, and shut up! Jack,
What?
how did you feel about what I just did?
And there's also young Jeff Goldblum being his best Jeff Goldblum even at this early age.
We're not coming from outer space now.
Why?
Well, what are you talking about? Space flower?
You'll give me your name.
People to fit
Because
the world.
I want to be able to
I'm trying to
report
change
this.
the world to fit people. Well, I'm sorry. If we woke you up in the middle of the night, that's... if we inconvenience you, I guess we owe you an apology.
Does he have any other settings besides interfering, over-talkative asshole?
That's how they do it. That's how they spread it. All those people are changed.
And even the characters with no names are interesting because the Body Snatchers themselves are really fun to watch. They have an obvious consciousness about what's going on around them, and they can blend into their surroundings pretty well, but they completely lack identity. A mob mentality of pure, unfiltered, goal-oriented thought with no humanity behind it. And as the film starts to build up on them, the most enjoyable thing upon rewatching it is trying to figure out when all the actors stop acting.
It'll take 48 hours.
Alan, 24.
I can't understand why you've become so emotional about a little flower.
The less they emote, the more likely it is that they're, in fact, a duplicate. It's why it's nearly impossible to tell when the hell Leonard Nimoy turns, because he's Leonard Nimoy.
We drift through the universe from planet to planet, pushed on by the solar winds. We adapt, and we survive.
He could have been the first person to be overcome by the creatures, and nobody would have noticed. He was probably a body snatcher in the movie he did before this.
I'll call him in an hour. I'll be at my office. If you have any other ideas, get in touch. The sooner the better.
You believe that they could be assimilated into the culture, and it would be very hard to detect. They're just... God damn it, I have to use this obvious reference. They're Vulcans.
There's nothing to be afraid of. They were right. It's painless. It's good.
The films in the Body Snatchers series are all based on this one overwhelming concept of a fear of infiltration. That's why a lot of people view the original film as a look at the Red Scare. And whether you watched it on both sides, you could see an argument. It could be painting communist influence as the alien force threatening to absorb and eliminate our normal American lives, or it could also be interpreted as the hysteria caused by the McCarthy-era supporters, trying to eliminate anything that's perceived as foreign or outside the norm in an attempt to rid society of the threat of communism. This movie doesn't really focus too much on that. It's got kind of a political undertone with its scenarios, but you're mostly too distracted to think about what's going on, because the original movie lacked in grotesque visuals what it made up for with its great premise and fantastic dialogue. This movie gives you both. Some of the images from this film are breathtakingly well done, starting obviously with the pods and the creatures themselves. You see the humans incubating in the containers, and it looks really creepy. Just the design of the pods themselves is pretty interesting, and I love that the townsfolk are constantly hauling them from place to place, trying to find the perfect place to grow them.
Matthew! Matthew! Matthew!
The scene where Donald Sutherland is replicated in real time is probably my favorite because it shows two things. Number one, just what it looks like when the creature is formed from the ground up, but two, how quickly the process can be. He takes a short nap, it connects itself to him with just a couple of weird corncob strands or something, and the creature immediately takes advantage. And I like that you actually see it from start to finish what the replication looks like, because some things are better left to the imagination in horror, but not this. This was really well done. There are a few great visuals in the film, even though most of it is built around suspense rather than shock. Like the scene where they wordlessly show the townspeople catching onto their ruse, and all you see is their legs collecting and moving together. I love those shots. And also, even when you're not being totally grossed out, the more subtle scares and the subtext of everything that happens on screen is pretty great. My favorite shots from both the 50s and 70s Body Snatchers are the scenes where you realize that somebody who you've been following this whole time is now amongst the enemy ranks. With the original, it was that emotionless stare from Becky after you realized that she'd fallen asleep. The remake takes it in a slightly different direction.
Matthew!
There is so much that I love about that scream. All the Body Snatchers have that high-pitched screech that warns the others that a human hasn't been turned yet. It's brought up a few times. Each time it is chilling. It comes as a total shock to the audience that Matthew was taken off screen. It could have been so corny and cheesy if it weren't built up so well. And that's actually a good way to describe these movies in a nutshell. They would have been ridiculous if they weren't so well done. And because it so easily weaves together the horror and sci-fi elements with good story, good characters, and great dialogue, you can have that slow-paced, suspenseful thriller based on fear of the unknown, as well as stupid crap like this. I still don't know why that's scary. I can't explain it, but goddamn it, it is. This film is amazing. Time has been very kind to it, and unlike a lot of the other horror remakes, it not only embraces its past, it doesn't trample all over it. It incorporates what made it good into a continuation of the universe. It's well acted, well written, it has an overwhelming sense of dread and tension, and a few crazy-ass spectacles thrown in for good measure. I haven't honestly seen a Body Snatchers adaptation that I haven't liked at least a little bit. The original is a classic. The 78 version is amazing. Stuart Gordon from Reanimator made a pretty good one in 93. And as an MST3K fan, I cannot end this video without telling you to check out Pod People. Hit the music! Next time we'll go back to look at one of the darkest Stephen King adaptations ever. Hey Joel, what do you think about the movies so far this year?
It stinks.
What do you know?
Hear the engines roll now. Idiot control now. Hideous control now.